What if I told you that you could work 4 hours a week and sustain yourselves and your family? Would you believe me?
Yes.
Would you believe me?
Yes.
Maybe, right? We can increase wealth by reducing the cost of living and actually using technology to make these kinds of changes, and we have to. We cannot job our way out of the current situation. It's not possible. So, do you have a vision for your life? By show of hands, who has a vision for your life? Who does? You know where you're going to. You have a sense of, okay, I like to see the number of hands. Me too. I have a sense of vision of where I want to go. The problem that I'm trying to solve in life is really, how can we create an integrated economy between Africans and diasporans across the world? That's the thing. I want to take care of my parents. I want to have a good life, a good family, all of these things, right? So pretty basic stuff. But I think the challenge with society, like some of our speakers mentioned, we don't actually have a collective vision for the future. If you were to try to describe where is Africa heading, where is Nigeria heading, do you have a clear sense of that for yourself? So I think that the work we need to do is to actually focus on a collective vision for society. If we don't, technology is going to do it for us. So you had one of our speakers talking about AI taking over and doing all of these things. That's all good. And some of this technology is really interesting. I remember 10, 15 years ago learning about the first one. Think about this. I was sitting in my flat, I was reading some articles, and I came across one. It said, Google funds a company called Calico to solve debt. This company is being funded to prevent people from dying. And I said, huh? How is that possible? They're funding millions of dollars into this company. Is it possible? It's possible. Google until today is still funding them. This last one, humanoid robots. So this one I've thought about for a very long time, even before this technology came out. I was wondering, how is it that in this world we don't have the ability of support by something like a humanoid robot? So I'll tell you a story about that in connection with my family. My dad left Nigeria during the Civil War. He fled to Cameroon. From Cameroon, he actually got a scholarship to go through schooling in the US. This is my dad. My mom, after doing 5 degrees, came back to Nigeria. He got my mom. They came back to the United States. She studied as a nurse. My dad, an economics professor. All of these things, the sacrifices that my parents made, all of it came down to my dad's health in the last few years has declined. So you think, you do all of these things, you make these leaps, you go to a new country, that things will be okay. If you can imagine, my dad, high blood pressure, has translated this lifestyle disease, preventable, what our professor was telling us about, cancer in elephants. So the thing with the robots that I want to go back to is, we struggled a lot with his care. It was very challenging. Trying to find carers and people, from the healthcare system to the carers, it was always very challenging. And I always kept thinking to myself, how is it not possible that we have a robot that you can program, that can help him feed, that can help brush teeth, that can help change, that can do some of these things that many of you are dealing with and we don't talk about? How is it that we don't have these kinds of technologies? But I'm here to tell you that they exist. The thing is again, we need vision. We heard the poet say, we stand on the shoulders of giants that have come before us, lions and warriors, movements that have happened previously. The civil rights movement, you have people like Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, Martin Luther King. These people, small group, had vision for what people should have in terms of rights. Independence movement, same thing. You had people like Kwame Nkrumah, Nelson Mandela, right? Haile Selassie. They had vision. They said our people should be free. They worked towards that vision. They galvanized people towards it. And look at where we are today with independent countries. Small group of people with vision that can galvanize other people and get them energized to do something. That is what we need in this current state and age with AI. So we've done it before, we can do it again. Okay, so I want you to imagine for a moment, just think, imagine for a moment. If you lived in a world where regardless of where you were born, you could travel anywhere. Think about that for a moment. You only had to work a few hours a week to actually thrive in life. And wealth actually meant a wide spectrum. Health, having community, like we have here, purpose, not work for the sake of work, but purpose, and then financial wealth. So imagine what that kind of world could be if we could live in that. But this technology, AI is like a supercomputer, right? Supercomputer. For those of you that haven't had a chance to engage with it or use it yet, I'm going to keep it very, very simple. Imagine you have a car that can drive by itself. This exists today, right? You have a car that can drive by itself. That's using AI. You have a phone. That phone you hold to your face. It unlocks the screen. That's AI. You have robots in manufacturing facilities that are doing different things. That's AI. But people are really worried. I don't know about you, but every time I'm looking online, I'm seeing AI. Jobs this, AI will take over, they're going to program us, and they're making people feel afraid at times about AI. And I don't want us to be afraid, because again, if you think about the movement leaders, they had vision. If we had vision, there's no need to be afraid. That and God. But there are three things that are really driving why people are worried right now. One, it's moving faster than anything that has ever come before it. So if you look at the top of the screen, humans have been around for about 300,000 years. It took a while for us to get to that, to agriculture, farming. We went from agriculture to industry. Factories, machinery, people actually producing on assembly lines. It took hundreds of years to go from that to the information age. Newspapers all the way to the internet, right? Hundreds. Suddenly, we're going from internet to this AI in decades. That's why people are worried, is the pace at which this technology is moving. The second thing is imperialism still rules the world. There are two things. We have economic system of capitalism. We have a social programming system called imperialism. We came up through colonization and slavery. Power, control, influence, money. So that's scary, because if that's how we're still operating, and you have these technology companies we're all freely giving information to, what do we do? We have no collective vision as a society of human beings and where we're going. So technology, they're the ones driving. You're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on TikTok, giving them data, information about what you like, what you don't like, what you're interested in. They can use that against us if we're not careful. Okay, so now let's contextualize this, because I've been talking in generalities and this, but let's bring it down to Africa. So something that I want people to actually remember, so really pay attention. 8 billion people on the planet. There are most of them between all of Africa, China, and India. Each of them 1.5 billion people. All 54 countries, 1.5. India, 1.5. China, 1.5 billion. Real GDP, what we produce annually, goods and services, that's what we produce. All of Africa generated $3.1 trillion in GDP at the end of 2024. In Africa, our GDP is driven by 5 countries: Algeria, Ethiopia, Egypt, Nigeria, South Africa. So what's going on in the other 49 countries? If we're honest with ourselves, what's going on? 5 countries are driving half. It's by design. There are 3 things that any society actually needs in order to survive. Agriculture, you need a way of making food for yourself. Energy, you need a way of producing light, electricity, or heat. And then production, you need a means of being able to produce. We import 85% of our food. Yes. Is anybody surprised? It's by design. We have institutions like the World Bank and the IFC. They created what's called the Common Agricultural Policy. That happened in 1955 after World War II. Africa used to export most of the food to all of these other countries. But because Europe was doing so poorly at the end of the war, they said, we have to fix this. We'll give African countries subsidies to import food from Europe. And those subsidies then created this deficit that we now have. We used to only import 10 to 20% of our food. We completely reversed it because of this policy. The second one is energy. We have how many countries? 54. How many of them are importing oil? 52. Do we produce oil in Africa? Yes. We're importing 52 of our countries, also by design. The Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency, MIGA, supported and funded specific projects that created this deficit. Last, we have production. So in the 1970s, we used to have 3% per gross world product contribution for manufacturing. Used to. Now, today, 50 years later, we're down to 2%. Again, same thing. Structural adjustment programs by a lot of these institutions created a situation where we were not able to actually bring in the machinery and equipment or to produce it here. So now you have all these deficits, right? What did I say? You need 3 things in order for any society to function. Food, energy, production. So if you have deficits in all 3, what do? You borrow money. So now you know why our countries are borrowing money. They're borrowing because they have all these deficits they now need to make up. The same institutions that put the programs in place are the ones you now go to borrow from. IFC and the World Bank, we're borrowing from them. So now what happens? They give you high interest rates. That means you now have less capacity to deal with the things that actually matter, making sure people are healthy and that they actually get educated. But if you have this issue going on that's being perpetuated, how much time do they have to be focused? Yes, they don't. They don't. All right, so it's not all bad news, right? The point there is really that it's by design. So we might not have financial wealth, but to me, we have health and we have community. We have some interesting stats here. So you have GDP, real GDP at the bottom. Across the top, lifestyle diseases. Lifestyle diseases are things like stroke, heart attack, diabetes, high blood pressure. Many forms of cancer are lifestyle diseases based on the things we're eating, based on what we're exposed to. That is now what is causing deaths for people, lifestyle disease. So across the top though, you see who is in green. That's saying that 4 out of 10 people will pass from a lifestyle disease. But if you now look at China and the EU, look at 9 out of 10 people will die from a lifestyle disease, something that can be prevented. 9 out of 10 people. We are in a position where we can course correct and change, and this is something that we inherently have. We may have challenges with other types of health outcomes, but when it comes to lifestyle diseases, we actually have this on our side. So, where do we go from here? All right, so I think there's an opportunity. Now that we have the context, we have a sense of what the technology is. I think the opportunity is that we can actually use the tech to our benefit. We can create platforms that are open, that we can now build on top of to decrease the cost of living and actually increase wealth for everyone. What am I saying? Earn more money, work less, lift everybody up. But your question should be how? With everything that I just talked about, how can we make that happen, right? Okay, I think there's 5 core things that are needed. The core of it is really building these open source platforms that people can build, businesses can build on top of. I think it starts with the African Union. Right now, the African Union is a coordination body. In the EU is a political and economic body. So I have a vision at the AU level. We set up a committee or a council that is specifically focused on this problem. There are 6 regions across Africa if you include the diaspora. We have regional groups that are now then focused actually working on these different open source stacks. The focus would be on reducing the cost of living, using technology to reduce the cost of living. We cannot job our way out of our current situation. It's not possible. We cannot create enough jobs to keep up with the number of people being born. So we have to do something else. So then we incubate builders. When we have these regional groups, we have now this network at the AU level. The regional groups would then be sourcing ideas. Everybody from teachers to farmers to economists, you bring everybody into these kinds of groups to incubate ideas. Those ideas then actually create a platform that, again, other businesses can build on top of. Some people are going to be like, okay, it's not possible, not possible, it's not possible. And remember our civil rights movement, our independence movement. Many people said that those things were not possible. People will say all kinds of things, but if we decide that we actually want to move in this direction, that is all we need. Those leaders, that is all they needed, is a group of people who decided that they wanted to make a difference and that they wanted to make a change. There are certain people in certain places that have actually already started doing this. The best example right now is in India. India has added $3 billion to their GDP from their own stack. So that's a model we can learn from. India, right now, one country is doing more GDP than all 54 countries in Africa. So India Stack has done things like biometric scanning at every point. Interbanking system they developed. Government services all using AI and technology. That's what they've done. So we can learn from them. Bloom, one of the largest groups of researchers in the world, creating one of the largest models in the world, proving that you can bring people together from all over the world, do something in 6 months as big as what they've done. Mila, a research institute in Quebec, they've done the same thing, focusing on society and humanity and technology. So these are just examples to show that it's possible and people are actually doing it. But we need the urgency to actually get moving in this direction. Okay, so where are we now? We actually have to make a decision, right? Do you want to survive or do you want to thrive? Fundamentally, if you want to thrive, you'll join me. Use AI to build. If you don't know, start with one of them. Go to ChatGPT, sign up, ask some questions. Go to Gemini, sign up, ask some questions. Go to Claude, same thing. If you've never used it before, just download or just go to the URL and just create an account and log in. Lastly is take action. So I have a live petition with the African Union right now that you can join and sign up for. So join the petition. The more people you share it with, the more we get the attention of the African Union to actually help get this launched and started. The last thing that I'll leave you with is this quote. It says, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." Thank you.